Hi, and welcome back to One Plain Kindergarten. Today I'm just going to go through and share some of my favorite kindergarten read-alouds and kind of share with you what I use them for and why I like them. So I'm going to start out with this one. This is called Hands Around the Library, Protecting Egypt's Treasured Books. This is about the burning of the Library of Alexandria and how people came together to protect it. There is Arabic writing in the book, which is really neat on the signs. So if you have any kids that are readers in Arabic, that would be really great for them to add. There's also a few words in here that give like English pronunciations of the Arabic word, so your kids can be experts in that. This is such a powerful story. The first time I read this, I was describing, there's a part where they all stand around and hold hands. And my kids I was just like kind of demonstrating it for them, like, oh, they reached out and held hands, and my kids all started getting up and holding each other's hands, and eventually we were all holding hands around in a circle, just like the story. So love this book, highly recommend. I always use that book and this next one I'm about to show you in my Heroes unit. So this is Malala Yousafzai, Warrior with Words. This text, I'm a kindergarten teacher, right? So this text is quite wordy. It does talk about the Taliban. It does talk about her getting shot. Personally, I do talk about that with my students. I do this in September every year, very early beginning of kindergarten, when we talk about what makes somebody a hero and what it means to have courage. This year, I have been able to pair it with Malala's Magic Pencil, which was actually written by Malala Yousafzai. So these two together, this one is more biography and this one is more fiction. So these pair super well together if you also like to do a little Heroes unit. This one was brought to me by a curriculum that we piloted. So there are free lesson plans for this with questions, vocabulary, everything already written for you online. If you search for Dear Juno, I think it's Achieve the Core. That's the pilot we did. So you can see in almost all my books, I have my questions written on sticky notes already in the book. And I also, if I made vocabulary cards, they will go in the book too. This is just a really sweet story about a little boy who gets a letter from his grandmother in Korea. And there's just a lot of neat things you can do talking about communication and why we use writing and letter writing. A lot of really great stuff that goes in with this. Now, I didn't pair it with it when I did it the first time, but in the future, I will definitely pair it with Dear Primo, which is writing back and forth between two cousins who live in different countries. So I think these two would pair really nicely together as well. Okay. Oh, this is just a really fun one. It's called What Can You Do with a Paleta, and it is a bilingual book. This one I think is good for like imagination, really good for describing words, and I love the illustrations in this book. This one is my favorite for Chinese New Year. It's called Ruby's Chinese New Year. This is another one that the illustrations are just beautiful. And if you're studying about the Chinese New Year, it's a really great addition to that unit and a good like fiction text to ground yourself in. This one is for later in the year. I would recommend this for later in the year in kindergarten. This is called Separate is Never Equal. I actually was really interested in this as I'm an adult and I'm reflecting back on what I learned about desegregating schools and how schools today are very segregated still, and kind of what truths did I learn and what truths were kind of hidden from me, and really reflecting on how I teach that sort of thing. This is about Hispanic children that were in California that were not allowed to go to the same school. that was something I was curious about as an adult. I was like, we always hear about African American segregation. Obviously that happens, that's still happening. So this is about Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregating schools. Really excellent, really, really rich text. I don't think everyone would use this in kindergarten, but I teach kindergarten ESL, and I'm telling you, your kids can do this. These are the vocabulary words. Like I said, I try to pull them in here and they're all just falling out. Citizen, segregation, opportunities, injustice. Come on. There is nothing more heartening than hearing a EL student use the word injustice correctly in a sentence. Amazing. And you can tell too, this is something else I'll do. So these sticky notes on the edge say read 1, read 2, read 3, read 4 even, I think, for this one, or final read maybe. Yeah, I chunked this one into, I think, 4 or 5 different parts because it's lengthy. This is really intense text, and I find that that chunking method can work really well when you're discussing in depth what's happening in the story. This was my students' favorite last year. I did a quick vote at the end of the year, and this won in a landslide. This is about Mae Jemison, who was the first African-American astronaut in space. Again, got my vocabulary cards going. This is just an incredible book. People do doubt Mae in the book and her dream, and it's about, you know, just sticking to your values and really working hard to achieve your dreams and believing in yourself. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. Some of my kids' favorite, one of their favorite books, and one of my favorite books to teach. I love how deeply they connected with this book, and kids love astronauts, so it's a really cool one. Mae Among the Stars. I'm trying to look for, okay, this is my favorite book to use when teaching questioning. This Not My Hat by John Klassen. It's very simple, very, very simple, but there's a level of like dramatic irony in this text that kindergartners can get. So I always use this one when I'm teaching questioning and predictions. There is a lot that the kids have to connect themselves, so we always focus on this. So the book never tells you what goes on in these pages. Great prompt for kids to start talking about what they think happened and questioning each other. Gosh, I love so many books. This was a new favorite, I would say. This one I read for the first time this year. It's called Maybe Something Beautiful, How Art Transformed a Neighborhood. And it's based on a true story of muralists in San Diego, and the illustrations are beautiful. The message is beautiful. This is great for revamping community helpers. This is what I did for community helpers. It is people banding together, helping a community, and I really love that these are things that you can also really connect to what students can do, and you can beautify your school in some way after you read this book and make a real life connection. Love this one. 2 shape books here. Crescent Moons and Pointed Minarets, a Muslim book of shapes, and Round as a Tortilla, a book of shapes. Love these for that math text connection, and they are both beautiful. If one of your standards that you touch on is describing shapes in the environment, using position words, those kind of things, great read alouds for that concept. This is how we do it. This is a really fun one for putting some geography in to your lesson if you're doing maps and globes, that kind of thing in social studies, or if you're working on comparing cultures. This has pictures from all the different countries, and for example, this is what I eat for breakfast, and every page is like that. And it's kind of from a kid's perspective, what a kid would do. So I think that's a really good one. This is my new family book. A family is a family is a family. One little girl is sitting in class and she's really nervous because she doesn't want to share about her family because she thinks her family is just too different from everybody else's and she doesn't feel like she has anything to share. And then she ends up going last and she hears about how everyone else's family is. Everyone else's family is different and special. There's a lot of different families depicted in this book. And then when it gets to her, she is a foster child and she shares about her foster family. So love this one. If your standards talk about writing about families, talking about families, read this first and expand your definition of family first before you make kids do things that might be hurtful to them. Yeah. I did not receive this book until later in the year, but if I did, I would have started my year with this book, maybe the second, third week of school. It's called The Day You Begin. It's by Jacqueline Woodson, and it's about being different and being in a space where you are going to be different. It's a reality. It's not, I mean, sometimes you are going to be the only one who is exactly like you for many different reasons. So The Day You Begin, excellent. Love this one for the beginning of kindergarten. Phoebe sounds it out. Phoebe is trying to write her name and you can see her name does not follow common phonics rules, but all she has to do is try her best. Very good. For the beginning of kindergarten, another good one for the beginning of kindergarten. My name is Yoon. This one is a little bit wordy. For the beginning, but I like it for the beginning because it's about name writing and that's something that you're really focusing on. And she eventually decides to keep her name Yoon and that she likes herself, so I love that message. This was my first day, first week, first 3 days. Yes. Okay, let's talk about the reality of the beginning of kindergarten. I had a child scream cry the entire first reading of this book and I had to like power ignore it. So I ended up reading this book a lot of times, but this is a rhyming book. It's talking about how all are welcome, how we're all from different places. Love this to start off your year on the right foot. This was a new one to me. This is in our district curriculum this year, and it is The Curious Garden, and it is about a boy it's about the High Line in New York. But he finds the garden and cultivates it. I think this is another good one for community helpers and expanding the definition of what makes a community helper. Ooh. And finally, I'm going to end, I think, I'll do 2 more. So this is 10 ways I can help my world. I love this one for Earth Day because it is things that kids can do. Simple ideas for Earth Day. Love this one for getting conversation started, and kids can then go on and write their own list of ways to help their world. And then finally, Jabari Jumps. This is a great one for talking about fears and overcoming your fears and growing up. And I love this book for the end of the year, and I love the illustrations in this book so much. So those are some of my favorites. I actually have a lot more favorites. A lot of them aren't at home right now. These are just ones I'm planning on writing curriculum for in my TPT store. And I do have some other ones that I'm planning on writing curriculum for as well. But I just wanted to share some of my absolute favorites, and I hope you found this video helpful if you've been looking for some new read alouds to love in your kindergarten classroom. Thank you so much for watching.